These people had not seen each other in such a long, long time. It was a family. It was a family made up of lots and lots of families. Families of all kinds. Some were mothers and fathers and children. Some were best friends who lived together. Some were best friends who lived apart and hadn't smelled each other's auras until today, for the first time in so long. Some were grandparents and grandchildren. Some were aunts and nieces and nephews. Many were not related except through their souls and their hearts and their hands, through the actions they took to help support someone else here, even if they didn't know that was what they were doing. Some did that by sharing knowledge. Some did that by sharing seeds. Some by growing cotton or flax or linen. Some by raising sheep and shearing wool. Some who spun cotton and flax and linen and wool into yarn. Some by knitting yarn into clothes. Some by growing the plants that would become the dyes that gave the clothes the color that brought the people to life. And even though they hadn't all been together here in the light of the sun that bounced off of the short waving grasses, whose morning dew had just evaporated on the toes of this very extended family, this community, this beloved community. This beloved community ran out into the open field, their toes and their heels releasing the oils in the grass, so that their reunion smelled so, so fresh. And as they ran to greet each other, their hearts got so big that it stretched through their arms, and they had to raise them up and extend them, ready to hug before a person was close. After all of the hugs, all the smiles and tears, all of the fresh smells of grass and the aura smells of people, after all of that hung in the air and fell to the ground, the dew of the afternoon, what didn't fall, was the soft and tinkling laughter. The laughter of connection. And in the air, they all looked and saw that in the air, what was hanging like fruit from heavy vines was their laughs. Their laughs hung like fruit, mature and ripe, looking like it might be alone on its own connection to the vine. But then they looked further down and saw that the vine connected all the laughs. The vine was the air between them, and their laughs were the fruit. And they picked and ate and drank the juices and the seeds. The seeds were saved by those who garden and grow. And then the evening descended, slowly, slowly, like a very deliberate kaleidoscope, like light being put through a kaleidoscope, the intermixing of blues and shades and shapes that change, blues that range from cool to warm, blues that haven't yet found their place in the sky for the night, that shift patiently as they turn. As the blues descended and shifted, the dew of the evening arose from the ground to meet the changing of the light, and each member of the beloved community could feel it in their toes and could wash their hands in it, like a river burbling up from the grass, snaking through the fresh green blades and the dirt mixing to mud and the fingertips of the people. And once they knew their hands were clean, washed by the evening dew, and the sky still crisp and cool before the warm darkness of nighttime descends, before the stars fill up their eyes, but after the some who brought the kindling and the wood started the tiniest flicker of a fire in the center of the open field, no bigger than 2 blades of grass and a flower of clover. Once their hands were clean and the fire flicked, they took hand in hand, one person to the next, no distinctions for the moment of who came from which house, just all of us together. Anyone who was next to anyone, the youngster and the elder, the long-lost friends, the neighbors who couldn't remember why they had fought, they all took hands, linking up into one giant connected chain, and then backing up and rearranging into one giant circle, surrounding the tiny flame. And now they use their toes and their heels to back up farther, as far back as they can go without removing one palm from another, without losing the interlacing of fingertips, until they couldn't go back any farther, and the flame started to grow, and they started to turn, and the flame was sprouted, and the heels turned to the right, and the toes picked up the pace, and the flame grew like a sapling that was surrounded by the wreath of the people that turned like a kaleidoscope with all its different shades and shapes, ever changing, ever growing, and the flame tried to reach the stars with its smoke, like a hand from the earth trying to connect with the sky, like the members of this beloved community connected with each other and danced and danced and danced. The fire was surrounded by community. It too was dancing, now having many flames that come together and apart within it, developing its own rhythms like the heel-toe steps of the community surrounding it. But the fire was made up of flames and within the circle, but needed its own hand to reach out. Not wanting to burn down this beloved community, the fire stretched and stretched to grow its flames upwards to the sky. And when its flames could not reach any higher, they ended in shifting points, kaleidoscopic oranges and whites, and it looked upwards to the other points of light in the sky, all of those stars laying across that blanket of blue, energizing the velvet. The shifting points at the ends of the flames kept reaching higher and higher, lonely, looking for a hand to hold, like all of those lucky people dancing around, and all the fire could do was go up and smoke. But what if that smoke was like the oils and the auras, extending its scent so the sky could look down and grab on? So the smoke grew higher and higher, looking for a companion for the fire, floating through the air, until one little star looked down from the sky and blinked. And the star blinked until it beamed to the other stars, sending its rays out like the outstretched arms of the people, like the searching fires, flames, and smoke, using its light to ask the other stars if they would want to link up with the fire. And all those times you've seen the markings of constellations, the lines that people have drawn across the stars to understand how they connect, or to misunderstand based on their own myths. Well, that low little star sent its rays out to the other stars, and finally one star connected back, taking its hand, and then the next star saw how the others connected and followed along. And they had a triangle, and then the next and the next, until you could see the pathways of light between all of the stars in the sky, over the smoke and the flames and the fire and the grass and the people dancing around and around and around and around. And all the stars linked up and looked down, and all the people exhausting and needing water and rest linked down and looked up. And the fire was still searching for a friend, and the little star led all the stars to raise their arms and then bow low. And the little star started to fall, 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 until its rounded belly of light dipped down to the smoke. And the fire reached higher until its smoke could reach the sky. And the light and the smoke let their edges dance towards each other, like the interlacing fingertips of the people, who are now lying on their backs in the grass, watching the stars in the sky form a beloved community with their fire, their sources of light, united. The night wore on, the fire petered out, the stars returned to their place in the sky. The grasses waited for the morning dew. The people were soothed by the breeze wafting through their clothes, the fabrics they'd woven together. And in peace, they slept. Except for one little person who's lying with palms under head, to always remember the day and the night, preparing to write it down, so that when we must be alone, we will still know of this miracle, of the oneness of the world and its creatures.